Tonight I'm going to talk to you a little bit about detail, what that means for a student, what that means for all of us. So this word, nuance, what does it mean? Nuance can mean a lot of things. And I've developed a method to kind of dive into that research and find another level of knowledge that includes more detail than you may have previously thought. I named this method this kind of toolbox to find knowledge in the details. After a phrase I found myself commonly saying when I would read something. Come on, that isn't true. There's no way. There's no way there isn't something more. There's another detail, something else I can find out. So I made kind of a chart. I said, okay, that level 1 of research is my first glance, my read, my cursory glance. I'm submitting to confirmation bias. The headline, I just read the summary. And my level 2 is a conflicting detail. So how does this translate into more knowledge or to detail? Well, the thing is that when you find something that you don't agree with, or you find something that makes you feel uncomfortable, it helps develop your view by kind of pushing it to its limits. So if I really like Coke, I drink 3 Cokes a day, show me the ingredients of the Coke. Now I'm conflicted. It's something that helps you develop your view to a point where you can talk about it. Level 3 is more. It's a source. It's a conflicting source that, again, pushes you. The difference between a source and a detail is that a source elaborates, a source analyzes, a source has evidence. And the final is an expert. Now, here's the thing that an expert can do that the other two can't, and that's talk. And an expert can debate, an expert can elaborate. And when you talk to someone that has already gone through these levels, you talk to someone that has a clear understanding of what they're talking about, you can push your perspective, push your knowledge even further. And that's what we're going to look at tonight, is how to dive deeper into knowledge through detail. So let's take a look at our first example. This is Helen Keller. Helen Keller was deaf, blind, and mute. She was the first blind-deaf person to receive a Bachelor of the Arts. She was an activist for the blind-deaf community. Does anyone know much more about Helen Keller? So I'm going to tell you detail, something else you probably didn't know. Helen Keller wanted to change our society through her activism, not only in the deaf-blind community, but also through socialism. She was a radical socialist, and she called for the boycotting of the military during World War I. So we have 2 stories here. We have the hero story of Helen Keller that we learned in middle school and elementary school, and we have the real story. The story of someone that pushed her whole life for something that, despite whether it's right or wrong to each individual person, is different than what you learn. So we went into that first level, and we got our hero story. And just the second level, we've already changed our perspective. So let's take a look at another example. This is a really famous photo from the Olympics in 1968 in Mexico City. When I first saw this photo, what you see is 2 African-American men raising their fists in defiance to the treatment of black people in America. But I want to focus on someone else, the man standing in front. Now, when this photo was first released, a common story that went along with it was you see 2 African-American men standing in defiance, but then you see this man standing completely unmoved. And a lot of people treated this as, look at this guy who does not care. This guy who's standing right next to people that are trying to make a difference, and it's not moving an inch. But that's not true. So let's say that's my first look. That's my level 1. Let's go to level 2. The detail that you missed is that this is Peter Norman. And it was Peter Norman's idea to raise their fists. Those are his gloves. That's why there's a right and a left. And if you look here, there's a pin for civil rights. The problem was that Peter Norman was Australian, and their view on African American and the treatment of African Americans was so harsh that he was unable to do anything. So he stood silently, but in defiance to his country, for what he thought was right. So we went from, again, a different story just by one detail. We went to a story of, here are 2 people standing up to what they thought was wrong, and one guy not. But no, this guy's doing what he thought was right in defiance of what he's been taught, in defiance of the rules. I think that's amazing. The single detail that changed your view. So let's talk about the levels here. We hit the level 1, the level 2, but there's more. There's more to the knowledge, there's more to the detail that we can find. So let's take a look at another example. Here's some data. It was published in the Lancet paper by Andrew Wakefield. And what it shows a distinct link between the MMR vaccine and autism. Now, if I saw this right before I received my MMR vaccine, I would have peed my pants. Granted, that's because I was 1, but the more important thing is if I was a parent, I would be very concerned. I see something I'm about to give my kid and it's going to cause autism, I'm not giving my child a vaccine. So let's hit the level 2. If I look here, there's only 12 participants in the trial. Worrying, yes. Maybe that wouldn't be a great project for my science class, but still, I'm not giving my kid an MMR vaccine. Why would I risk it? So let's find a source. If I Google the man who published the paper, Andrew Wakefield, you would find that he distorted the data, falsified the results, and is discredited and banned from practicing in the United Kingdom. So wait a minute, I just went from I'm not touching an MMR vaccine to this is completely false. And that was not even a source, that was basically a detail. So it shows that even finding something here that you don't agree with isn't enough all the time. You have to go to that next level. And I don't know about you, but I'm okay giving my kid an MMR vaccine. It saves lives. And looking at the difference between these 2 slides is a lot. Let's take a look at our last example. This is General Ulysses S. Grant. He fought for the Union in the North during the Civil War, and he fought against slavery, something he thought was wrong. But here's something you didn't know about General Grant, is he was anti-Semitic, and heavily so. He published an order in 1862 calling for all Jews to leave the military because they violated his trade regulations. So someone I grew up honoring, someone I grew up following as kind of the embodiment of freedom and honor is also anti-Semitic. Anti-Semitic, hating a religion that I belong to. So how do I comprehend that? How do I find my view? How do I find the balance between, is he a good man? Is he a bad man? So I hit the level 1, right? I read the story about his anti-Semitism. My view went the opposite way, the flip side. Oh my God, General Grant's a horrible guy. He's anti-Semitic. I'm like, wait a minute, let's go further. So I found a conflicting detail. Okay, maybe his secretary wrote it and he just signed it, but still, I'm not feeling right. I still feel that these views contradict each other. So a conflicting source. Again, I'm reading about General Grant saving people, saving lives, fighting for a great cause against slavery. But I feel wronged. I feel lied to. So I went to the 4th level. I talked to Leslie White, who's a Holocaust teacher at our school. She teaches on anti-Semitism. And she helped me understand that it's not always black and white. Well, the picture's black and white, but the situation's not black and white. He doesn't have to be anti-Semitic or good. It's not a point system. They don't cancel each other out. And I went from a hero story to the real story. I went from here's a man who's good to here's a man who's good who's also here's a man who's good to here's a man who did good things but was anti-Semitic. And I had that understanding. I can still honor him as someone that did great things if I understand. I have the knowledge of his anti-Semitic capabilities. And it's that understanding that's so important. So what's wrong? What's wrong with the superficiality? What's wrong with just reading the headline, seeing the notification on your phone, hearing it from Twitter, MySpace, I don't know what you're into. It's that you don't have the truth. It's that it's almost impossible to get all the education, all the knowledge into a sentence or to one source, one picture. So diving into that next level, diving into that next, kind of degree of knowledge, you're one step closer to the truth. So one detail is all it takes, and you could find it, the truth. Thank you.